Hey guys, and welcome along to another video. Now, I'm in the car. It's a lovely summer's evening here in England, Sunday evening when I'm filming this, and I thought I'd come out for a drive, take advantage of the nice evening and discuss somewhat of a hot topic in the world of GT Sport at the moment. Now, a couple of well-known YouTubers, Z28 from America and fellow Brit Tidgney, have released videos on their distaste towards the current state of Gran Turismo. Now, I am feeling their pain as well, and I'm in agreement with a lot of their points. So I thought, in order to gain as much traction as possible, I thought I'd give my thoughts and see if we can get Polyphony Digital to listen to what the community are saying and hopefully make some changes to make the game a little better for everybody. Now, I have a bit of a personal axe to grind with Polyphony Digital. I personally don't think that they do enough to support the community, and I don't think they listen to the community, to be quite honest. I think it's a little bit of almost arrogance, and whilst they do a lot of good stuff, they bring out plenty of free updates, they put on a fantastic FIA event. I just wish they'd take a couple of steps back and just listen to what the day-to-day users want out of GT Sport. And also, rather than this being a video of me just sitting here moaning about it, as with Z and Tidgney, I also have a few ideas that I think would improve the experience for all of us end users. So, covering the first video that was made, it was by Z28. I'll link to his channel in the description down below, and I'll do the same with Tidgney. But he was the first one to release a video on his distaste towards the current state of Gran Turismo. Now, Z28, if you don't know him, he hasn't been around much recently, but he used to be a regular streamer. He was absolutely massive, pulled in huge numbers all the time, and he got to the world finals. It appears, having looked at his video and listened to it, he's kind of had enough of the competitive side of things. So he's looking at it from more of a fun side of things, whilst Tidgney is looking at it from, you know, the competitive side of things, the FIAs. So it's good to look at both videos because you can look at it from the fun side and the competitive side. So Z's video is basically saying that the FIAs dominate the whole game and nobody's really doing FIAs anymore, and they've become irrelevant. Now, firstly, I would agree with him wholeheartedly. The dailies have become so repetitive and so samey in terms of their formats that I don't really race them anymore, and the only time I ever do race them is when it's a good track or I have to make some content for you guys. So there's definitely something wrong there, and I think I know what is wrong with them. Firstly, let's talk about the variety. Everybody knows, if you're a betting man and you didn't know what next week's daily races were, I would say daily race A is some sort of one make at Autodromo Maggiore in some terrible N200 car. I would say daily race B is Interlagos in Group 3, and I would say daily race C is Group 2 at Fuji. Now, there's a pretty good chance that bet would come in, to be quite honest, because it's constantly on repeat. Either that or there's some sort of Tokyo track, or, you know, there's some sort of horrible combination that, to be honest, nobody really wants to do. Well, they were happy to do it the first time, but they just don't want to do it after about the 10th time in a row. Ooh, that's a nice Porsche there. So for me, this goes back to my point about Polyphony Digital not listening to their community. That's just lazy for me, just picking the same stuff over and over again and expecting us to keep playing it. They must look at the participation figures, they must see that they're dropping. So I don't know, to be honest, why they keep going on with that. So that's the first point, is they need to change the variety. I mean, when was the last time we had Alsace Village or whatever it's called. Alsace. But anyway, that one. You know which one I'm talking about. We haven't had that in absolutely ages. And whilst I wasn't a great fan of it, I'm a big fan of variety. So if that came up, I'd give it a go. And there's also the length of time. I mean, we all know the daily race A, B and C lengths. We know them inside out. We know what's going on. There's no change to it. So I think with that, they need to bring in maybe daily race D, E, F potentially, or just vary up the lengths. Because some people like the short sprint races, some people like me like the longer ones where there's a bit more strategy and all that sort of stuff. So variety is the first thing I think that would improve the daily races. Secondly, format. For me, I would like it to be in the FIA format, not have so many. Don't have one every 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. Have it just on the hour. That's it, because then you just can't hammer it over and over again. I think, to be honest, I think there's just too many races throughout the day. I mean, I'm not sure if you were to hammer it all day. I think 3 an hour every hour. So what? You could do 72 races in 24 hours. That's just too much. It's diluting the player base too much for me. So what I'd like to see is less events, but have an FIA style qualification event before it. Obviously you're going to have to vary the times, because if it's a short sprint race, you might want to give someone an individual hot lap, or if it's a longer 40 to 60 minute race, you might want to give them a 10-minute qualification session with everybody on the track. But for me, I think if you just get a good time in qualification, that's the end of it. There's no excitement, there's no realism to it. And remember, the tagline of GT Sport is the real driving simulator. So you tell me what's real about the current situation with daily races A, B and C. There's no qualification. It just doesn't do it for me. So I don't play it, as I say, unless I've got content to get out to you guys. So for me, get some qualification in there and get a few more options. Z's final point was about the general relevance of the daily races. Now, to be quite honest, if I was maxed out at 75,000 driver rating, I wouldn't be touching them. To be honest, I'm a bit reluctant, and I've got only 50,000 points. I'm just into A+, because what I don't want to do is enter a daily race A, B or C, get punted off the track and then lose DR, which is going to affect what lobby I'm in for the FIAs. So the risk, if I was at 75, I just wouldn't touch them at all, because the risk of losing them is too much, quite frankly. So what I would suggest is to make the daily races relevant again. Make the daily races decide your driver rating. So have the FIAs done on points, but have it affect your SR only. Don't have it affect your driver rating. Keep the SR so it keeps everybody in check, but let's not have the ability to improve your DR through it, because that's what we want people to go back to the daily races for. And while we're on the subject of DR, why does it get capped at 75,000? Raise the ceiling higher or make it near impossible to get there. So whilst everybody at 75,000 driver rating is very, very good, and let's take two people for example who've probably got 75,000. Let's take Tidgney and let's take Lightning for example. Two guys who have most likely, I haven't checked their stats recently, but most likely will have 75,000 driver rating points. Now, are you telling me that let's split 75,000 into milliseconds? On a 1 minute 15 second lap, let's say the Red Bull Ring, if you're in a Formula 1 car, it's about, I know it's about 1 minute 10 seconds, but let's say it was 1 minute 15 seconds. Just any lap of 1 minute 15 seconds. Are you telling me that Tidgney and Lightning would have exactly the same time to the 1,000th of a second? That's how close you're saying that these guys are matched by having 75,000 driver rating points, and you can't separate them? That's just crazy. So you need to raise that bar up or make it more difficult. What's the point of having max driver rating? There's absolutely no point. You need to keep going and going and going, and really you should never be able to get to the top. So now I've covered Z28's video and talking about the dailies. I'm now going to talk about Tidgney's video that he did and then swing it round to the more competitive side, which is the FIAs. Before we even take a look at the event itself, let's get on to the fuel and tyres. Firstly, take the multipliers away. Just take them away and I will tell you how it's going to work. You don't need multipliers for me. Basically, if you give, for example, moving on to fuel, if we're saying we're playing a real driving simulator here, let people decide how much fuel that they want to put in. In the real world, do people get told how much fuel they need to put in the car? Other than Formula 1, which, to be quite honest, I don't really watch anymore because it's an absolute disaster. The latest race at Barcelona I watched for approximately 3 minutes. After the first lap you could see Lewis Hamilton was ahead. Game over. I'll check it on the website later and I might watch the highlights on YouTube later on. But generally you knew what was going to happen, so I didn't watch it. But other than Formula 1, let people decide how much fuel they want to put in. And just like in real life, less fuel will equal faster cars, but more pit stops. And the other way around. If you have more fuel, it means you're going to have a slower car, but you're going to be doing less pit stops. Plus, in qualification, like Tidgney said, I mean, I probably haven't spent that much time burning fuel, but I have spent a disproportionate amount of time going around in first gear, feet on both pedals, trying not to bounce off the rev limiter because I just want to get rid of my fuel. So if I had the choice beforehand, I could put it on as low as possible and I'd probably do what old school Formula 1 did. Put 3 laps of fuel in, out lap, fast lap, in lap. And I'd probably do that a couple of times throughout the session. But as the real driving simulator, that's what I want to do. So give me the opportunity to do that. And tyres. Same with the tyres. Give us complete autonomy on what tyres we want to use. When was the last time you saw anybody using hards in qualification? It's just crazy. For me, we should be on super softs in qualification. And again, if you want to use the softs in a race, fantastic, you'll be quicker. But then it will wear out quicker, so you'll need to change them quicker, which means you'll lose time in the pit stops. Again, if you're using hards, it means you're going to be slower on average per lap, but you'll have less pit stops to do. So let people have that element of strategy. At the moment, it's not there. And it's really, really quite boring. It takes the racing out of it, takes the strategy out of it. And it's something that I personally think keeps a lot of people away from the game. Next up is the FIA point system. Now, the current state of it is absolutely nonsensical. So I had a look at my race last time out and I got more points having binned it at the Red Bull Ring than some people did in the top split who didn't bin it. Now, I don't understand how that could possibly work at all, whoever worked that out. And because of that, people are doing things like getting rid of their driver rating points so they can go down into a lesser lobby and finish higher up, because the guy in 20th place in the top split somehow gets more than the winner in the second split. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. So this is how I propose that Polyphony Digital fix it. Now, firstly, have one slot for each race on a Wednesday and a Saturday. I'd rather it not be on a Saturday because I have a life and I don't want to play Gran Turismo on a Saturday evening. No offence to people who do, but for me and my lifestyle, it doesn't work for me to sit there and play Gran Turismo from 6 until 11 o'clock or whenever it is, 7 till 11 o'clock. I just can't do it. I don't want to do it. Plus, it also means if you mess up in one race, don't worry about it because you've got the next slot or the next slot to do it in. And again, going back to the real driving simulator, in real world, you do not get multiple shots in championship races. They don't all count, so it's not the end of the world, as Tidgney said, if you don't do fantastic in one. It also takes away the excitement. It should be literally, you've got one shot and that's it. One slot for each, in my view. You should have one nations race on a Wednesday and a Saturday, and one manufacturer's race on a Wednesday and a Saturday. Then you wouldn't have any issues with strengths of lobbies or anything like that. You would have everybody who entered in one long list, if you look at it, split into 20 car lobbies. You have predetermined allocation of points for the top person, and then work your way down. That's it. So if you are first in the top split, you get the top amount of points out of everybody because you won the top split. And if you came 20th in that top split, you'll get more than the guy in first in the second split. How can you get more points? Then you tally them all up and then you split them by manufacturer to see who's got the most points, which determines the people who go to the finals, and the same with nations, you split them by nations. And that's why I think you should only have one race of each, because that will allow everybody to be on one entry and to be ranked. As mentioned earlier, you don't have the harder and softer lobbies at that point. Plus, if anything goes wrong, you don't get another shot. It's all or nothing. It'll add to the excitement. You don't think, oh, no worries, I've got another go in an hour. No, it's one and done, which I think personally adds to the excitement. And also, while we're there thinking about excitement and one and done, put the full damage back on. They did it a little while ago and I thought it worked really, really well, and it started to change people's behaviour. They were thinking about maybe not chucking it up the inside into turn number one because they don't want damage and have to pit. It was working really, really well and promoting sensible racing, hard but clean racing as well, until they changed it back. So bring back full damage. And because if they went to only one shot, we don't need it to affect driver rating because it's only one race, which again pushes the relevance back to those daily races that at the moment nobody really is participating in at all. So that is how that links in with that one, in my view. So in summary, the changes that I think should be made to the dailies to make them more relevant are that they have more tracks on rotation, so we don't get the same ones over and over again. We have more events, so that you can have a wider variety of races throughout the week, so they can be longer, they can be at more different tracks, etc, etc. Add qualification to the beginning of each daily race, so that each one is different and it's a little bit more fresh every single time. Because as you know, if you put in a good lap, that's you for the whole week. You can just sit there knowing that you're going to be in a good position all throughout the week. And then finally, have your driver rating dictated by your performance in these new daily races. Don't have it affected by the single FIA shot you've had. And I believe if you did that, things would get much better and make the daily races much more relevant. Moving on to the FIAs now, I think we should have complete autonomy over the fuel levels, complete control of the tyre compound choices, one race each for each the nations and the manufacturers, and then change the point system. Top 20 points get split between those in the first split, and then 21st most points goes to the winner of the second split, etc, etc. Now those in my view would get me racing more on Gran Turismo Sport, and at the moment I pretty much, in all honesty, just do it for content, and that's why I do things like race on iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione, because Gran Turismo Sport at the moment is boring me, quite frankly, and I want to put a stop to it because there is such good stuff going on in the game, but there's just a few tweaks that they can make, and it should just be algorithm tweaks that would make it such a better game and such a more enjoyable experience for not just me but for everybody. So those are my views on the current issues with GT Sport and my solutions that I think would remedy them. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Also, give this video a thumbs up and a share if you think that Gran Turismo Sport needs to change some stuff, and then hopefully this combined with Tidgne's and Z's video will put it on the map of Polyphony Digital, and we can start getting some of the changes that the community is asking for. But for now guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.